Hi, welcome to Short Film Showcase. I'm your host, Mike Messier. On this episode, we have a very special in-studio guest and some great short films from across the world and the New England region. Up first, we have an encore performance of our popular web series, 13 Witches by Sabine Modestin. Let's check it out right here on Short Film Showcase.
Dennis, I'm just remembering pieces.
It's okay, it'll come back to you. We used to be pretty close.
Okay. Well, I feel bad. You know, I still don't remember Pandora after 2 years.
That's because you're dumb.
Well, we all know you're the dumb one. I'm the sexy one. Okay, so you guys all remember bits of each other? I'm just the only one who doesn't remember anything?
I remember a few things.
Don't lie. The only thing she remembers is how many guys she had sex with in the 17th century.
Okay, seriously. Don't you guys think we know the whole truth? Why there's a goddess name for each of us?
Well, Mother named us after each goddess so we could be protected by them.
And you believe that?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, what if we're possessed by these spirits? What if we're not even ourselves anymore?
We're witches. We have the powers of the goddesses.
Diana, you think too much. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
No, because you're the dumb and clumsy one.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it is said that Pandora is responsible for the misfortune of mankind, right?
It is said that you can go f*** yourself, Diana.
What did I say?
Don't worry, she always reacts that way when we talk about it. She'll come back.
I didn't.
Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. You know, I understand your theory, but it just doesn't make sense because I remember Mother. And I remember the killer. I think Enyo, Hera, Eurybia, Persephone, Andromeda, and I are the only ones that remember Nemesis before.
I remember her a bit as well.
It's interesting. But she's the feisty type, right? Always ready for a fight?
No. Believe it or not, she was shy and quiet.
It was one of those days where everybody was dancing and singing. And Nemesis was in the corner with the kid's head.
I think she wasn't really comfortable in her own skin.
She's trying to be like Athena, funny and strong.
She was always trying to act like her. It was really weird.
That she was in love. And all she wanted was to be married and have children. But Mother wasn't too impressed with her purpose in life. So she saw her as the weak link in the family.
In love with who? Not Christian.
Yeah.
She was so weird that the only one that was able to talk to her was Andromeda. And she never laughed once Mother brought her home.
Did Christian even love her?
I think yes. Venus thinks no. Andromeda is pretty sure that he was in love, but so embarrassed by his feelings that he decided to repress them. And then he made sure that all his brothers hated us to the point of what happened.
I just wish things were different.
Everything will be alright. Honey, this is the job for you.
I know, but do you realize if I get this job, I'm gonna be dead?
I know. And I know you'll get it. Because you're the best. And I trust you.
What do I do without you? I love you.
I love you too.
Oh my god, I got it!
You got the job.
Yeah, they hired me on the spot.
What did I tell you?
I know. Ready to go celebrate?
Actually, I'm not feeling that well today. I was thinking maybe we could go home and celebrate.
What's wrong?
I wanted to wait before I announced it to you, but since my throat in the next hour.
Oh my god, are you pregnant?
Yes, I'm pregnant.
Oh my god, Syl. That's amazing. I love you so much. Hey lady, you dropped something.
Christian!
You make a nice couple.
We barely spoke since we got back to the park. What's wrong? Are you not happy with my trying to say?
No, that's not it at all. I need to go grab something.
Can't it wait until tomorrow?
No, I want to read my stuff so I can be ready for tomorrow.
What stuff?
Stop asking me annoying questions. I'm sorry. I'll be really quick, okay? You.
We want your soul. Do you recognize me?
This lady from the park.
Oh no. You know me a lot longer than that. You started by flirting with me, but I wasn't your type.
Then you tried flirting with me. We even had an affair together. But you stopped all that when you saw Nemesis.
Nothing really happened between us. Because I was too shy and too introvert that he couldn't approach me.
You're all crazy. Leave now or I'm gonna call the cops.
I don't think so.
How are you?
My eyes and your eyes are now one. Our spirit is one. May the past and the present life become one. May the present and the past life become one. Remember now, slave.
Nemesis. I've always loved you. You just did. We didn't even talk. We just knew.
I can see you're starting to remember now. But you're still a liar.
Nemesis, you have to believe me. I swear. I loved you. Things were complicated back then. I mean, you saw my wife. You know I love exotic women.
I don't care what you say. You'll be mine forever now. This is really the best day of my life.
I have no idea how I'm going to be ready for that.
Nemesis.
When I met you 3 centuries ago, I was only Nemesis. But now, I'm Nemesis second. That means I have 2 of the Pfizer's goddess spirits in me. There's no mercy in my heart, Christian. Not anymore. Christian? Christian! Christian! Christian, no! Christian! Hello. Christian! Hello.
Oh, I bet you're shy and introvert. Just like Christian.
You'll be a nice lady when I let you. No, please, please! I'm pregnant! What did you say? I'm pregnant. Please let me live. Let's go. Why didn't you kill her? Stop asking questions. Let's go.
Before I was the host of this show, I produced a very popular show called The Mike Messier Show. One of my very special moments on that show was interviewing the great UFC legend, Randy Couture. Randy has gone on to become an actor and is featured in the Expendables series of films. So let's check out from the vaults of The Mike Messier Show, my interview with the awesome fighter and actor, Randy Couture. From the UFC. He was the coach of The Ultimate Fighter 1. And Randy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the Mike Messier Show. And what was it like being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter?
It was a great experience for me. The guys were great. I enjoyed working with them. The assistant coaches were fantastic. I learned a lot. And
you don't mind? Thanks. You can speak right into it.
Okay.
And Randy, you've had a pretty great career in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. What are your highlights of your career?
Highlights? I don't know. It's hard to say. I won a few championships. It's hard to pick one over another. I think anytime you're an underdog, like I have been in a few fights, it's always fun to come out on top. Certainly the Vitor Belfort fight, the first time I fought him back in '97, was a big win for me. think beating Chuck and then Tito, both as 3-1 underdogs, were both big wins for me. But I look forward to the future and getting back in there in February and the third match, the rubber match with Chuck Liddell.
Well, that's going to be great. I didn't even know that the fight had been signed. You, Chuck, and Tito have had kind of a three-way rivalry. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's cool. Is it you and Chuck seem to be pretty friendly on the show? You guys, how do you put that friendship aside when you fight a guy?
It's what we do. I mean, we're fighters. We love to compete. You know, the fact that we get along and have gotten along outside of the ring has no bearing on what we do in the ring. We go in and do what we're trained to do and compete hard and shake hands afterwards.
Right. Is there anybody that you haven't fought that you would like to fight?
I mean, everybody's talked a lot about trying to bridge the gap between the Pride and the UFC, and you know, Vanderlei Silva being the #1 guy and in the weight class for Pride would be a great fight. But there, you know, there's a lot of guys out there to fight. I don't really care. I'll fight anybody.
Right. And Randy, I want to let you go in just a minute, but how did you get involved in mixed martial arts competition?
I started with Olympic wrestling, most specifically Greco-Roman wrestling, and this just kind of became an extension of that competition. My first fight in May of '97, basically on a whim, was just something I wanted to try, and obviously it's gone way further than I ever expected.
Yeah, you've done amazingly well, and right now you're the coach or the games master, so to speak, on UFC 2, and you're coming up with the games that these guys are fighting in? Yeah,
myself and a few of the producers brainstormed, kind of came up with some challenges that we thought were a little more sport-oriented and a little more combative, and I've been real happy with the way they've come out so far.
I saw the mud wrestling one was pretty funny when they're trying to push each other out of the pit.
Yeah, a little king of the mat with mud added to give it a little flavor.
Yeah. One thing I got to ask you about is I was dating a girl who asked me about the cauliflower ears that fighters have, and you, of all people, must know that that's excruciating. Is that excruciatingly painful, I would guess?
I've had these for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I got them when I was wrestling in the service, and they're real sore when you first get them, and then after that they're like armor. They're hard as a rock.
Yeah.
So God kind of knew what He had in mind for me and gave me some armor plating on the side of my head.
Doesn't affect your hearing, does it? Or?
It's more cosmetic than anything.
Yeah, it's just a battle scar.
Yeah, certain countries you go to the head of the line if you have a set of these.
Yeah. And Randy, it's well known that you're a fighter. You're in your late 30s or early 40s, is that correct?
42.
42. So how much longer do you think you can keep going with fights, man?
Well, my body's holding up very well. I'm still able to train and compete at a high level. As long as that happens, I don't see myself doing anything else.
There's a couple of guys like yourself, like Ken Shamrock, who are fighting into this, but it's almost like a pitcher in baseball that hits his stride, like a Randy Johnson or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're seeing it in a lot of professional athletics now. We're just the science of sports. We're getting more and more out of our bodies, and guys are able to compete at a higher and higher level at an older age.
I know that UFC endorses Zions. Is that it? The product?
Zions is a big sponsor of the UFC. They sponsor the Ultimate Fighter, and you can see them at on the canvases of just about every fight now.
Is that something that you take yourself, or?
Actually, they don't sponsor me. I'm sponsored by another company called Physogen.
Okay. Cool. And what's your advice to anybody out there watching? Rhode Island is where the show is broadcast, and it has a lot of guys that are taking mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu or taekwondo. Do you have any suggestions to guys that might want to be involved in this type of fighting?
I would think the best thing to do is to find a good gym, find a place to train that's going to take care of you, where you can get good instruction and work out with a bunch of guys that have your best interest at heart.
Great. All right, Randy, I want to let you go. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you very much for being on the Mike Messier Show.
You bet. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Randy.
Now, let's check out a film by our producer, Bryan Casey. It's called He Never Said a Word, and it stars William Bloomfield, an awesome actor who's been on our show before. Let's check out Bryan Casey's He Never Said a Word right here on Short Film Showcase.
This is supposed to be a nice, easy conversation. Now it's a mess. You happy now?
Hey, you heard what he said. He had it coming.
Listen, we have talked about this. How many times have I told you? I don't care what anybody calls you. It doesn't give you a right to shoot him.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, cover me.
This is not gonna end well.
That was great. Right now we have a very special in-studio guest. It's Richard Chandler.
How you doing, Mike?
Richard, can I call you Rick?
Yes.
Okay, great. I've known you for a while. We've talked about films and our mutual passion, our interest in pro wrestling. But let's start off with you, because you do a lot of stuff. You've done, some of your projects include the most recent Gilgamesh, a lot of fun titles, Boston Massacre. This one has a great title. Tell me about Scrooge in the Hood.
Scrooge in the Hood, it's a movie we did a couple years ago. It was kind of it was a Christmas spoof about Scrooge, where he was a gangster and a pimp. And he was so cheap that he could have saved the Marley character. You know, he could have saved him, but he was so cheap. Instead of paying off the mob ended up killing Marley, and that's why Marley starts haunting him and the ghosts, and so it's kind of like this ghetto spoof of A Christmas Carol.
Wow.
So it's pretty rated R, it's not for the kids.
Not for the kids, but
yeah.
It's good to parody things that are in the canon of people's, experiences, and just get a laugh, and do something different.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of fun. Then we have something. Was it called Legless? Was that?
Legless was the film we did before that. Also, kind of a raunchy comedy, kind of on the lines of like A Hangover or Old School type thing.
Yeah.
It was about a guy that was sober, and then for 30 years, but he was a big partier. And his wife left him, and then he had nothing better to do. His son went off to college, so he got his old buddies back together, and they went crazy.
Okay.
So the legless part is about being drunk.
Oh, okay.
That's what not a horror movie is. It's often mistaken as a horror movie until they watch it.
Nice. So you can go with the range of comedy and horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did some comedy stuff for a while, and then I don't know. I started off with the horror, then it was getting too dark. So I was like, all right, let's lighten the mood here. And now we're getting back into it's getting darker again. So I don't know what that means, but
you're coming full circle.
Yeah.
What first got you involved in acting and filmmaking, Rick?
Like I wrote novels. Like I was a novelist, and I like to write a lot. So I kind of wanted to see that, you know, come about. So, you know, I got into producing that way, and you know, that's been pretty much it. I've just been doing it for around 7, 8 years.
Wow. And what's the name of your film company again?
It's Boston Film Family.
Yeah, that's great. And with the title, that implies that you're very close to your friends, to your coworkers, to your colleagues. And like we've talked about with a few of our guests, and I say myself, when you do come together to make films, it is like a family. So tell us about some of your work with your collaborators. How do you work with the people, your right-hand man, your right-hand woman, you know, the people that are on your team? How do you lead them as a filmmaker?
Well, there's a couple of people I've worked with for a number of years, like Todd Therian, Steve Sandberg. My dad helps me out. So, you know, like we have kind of like a little thing going. You know, some of the people that have been there from 2005, you know, till now. And, you know, so it's been kind of like a little family, so to speak, and then, you know, people will come in off and on and, you know, do a project or two, and then I don't even know if I'm answering your questions
No,
anymore.
you are actually.
I am, okay, good.
Yeah, it is true that sometimes you have colleagues that come in for 1 or 2 projects and they're off on their merry way, but then you have people that you're consistent with for years and years. So.
Yeah, so that was the family part of it, you know. I felt like it was kind of an interesting, cool title for that reason, you know.
I like that. And then you've done some acting as well in your own projects, right?
I've acted in my own projects. Recently, I've been acting for other people this past 2 years as well. Originally, I acted just in my own stuff, but I kind of branched out a little bit. Is it all right for me to?
Yeah, please.
To plug some things.
Yeah, please do.
I was the lead in a film directed by Matt Fisher called Insomniac, which is still in production right now, and that's like a psychological horror piece about me losing my mind. It's very true to real life.
And
so,
I can relate to it.
Fits in there. It's a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So that was a good role for me. And, doing that. I was the lead in a an ancient Greek piece by Henry Gravel called Xandy's Garden. And I'm on a web series called Family Problems.
South Chitwood.
Yep, Seth. And that's very interesting, kind of dark. It's pretty dark.
Yes.
So I like that, playing an interesting character in it. And I have something in the new Wes Williams movie, District C11. So that's what, I got a couple things going on acting-wise, which is nice for a change, because it's nice, you know, to set that pace. When I'm not in charge, it's like a vacation almost. So it's nice.
You get to let someone else do the heavy lifting or
and sit back.
Yeah, and then you just come in with your spot and deliver the goods as an actor.
Yeah.
Now that first piece you mentioned about the psychological elements as far as a guy who's losing his mind, how do you prepare? What's your approach for a role as intense as that?
Well, I don't know if it's a coincidence or what, but I feel like I've had this past like couple of years, I've had bad sleep. I don't know. So maybe the stress of being a filmmaker, maybe just insomnia. I don't know. But I almost feel like I know what the character is going through in terms of the frustration of having to you know, prepare to go to work and to get all the stuff done when you can't concentrate. Obviously, I haven't gotten to the point of this character who's completely loses his mind. But how do you really prepare for that? I guess you have to try and realistically say, well, what would happen if you went days or weeks without sleep? And I think realistically, I mean, if you've ever even pulled an all-nighter, you kind of start to see little things move around and stuff. So it's like, well, what would happen if people did that for days? You know, I think you'd be nuts.
Might travel through a stream of subconscious, unconscious consciousness.
You just go in and out of it. Yeah. So that was, I guess, that's what I was going for. Is that really kind of that you know? And then you know, there's a couple big moments where my character really loses it.
Right.
You know, it's kind of desperate, and then he finally just goes off the deep end.
And how do you, when you play that type of scene, and I've had some characters like that myself, but how do you get into it, but not at the point of endangering yourself or your colleagues, your co-actors, your crew? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get to that scary point without being dangerous?
Well, it's kind of hard because on a small set, as you know, like you don't really have your own space.
Right.
So like it's kind of hard to like separate yourself from people. So to turn it off and on is hard.
Yeah.
You almost it is kind of a weird thing. I know what you're saying, and with this movie, that was probably the biggest challenge, is like having to be this character that's like chronically depressed and can't sleep, but then people are laughing and joking and like, you know,
right.
Hey, how's it going? You know, talking and being friendly, and it's like, I'm like, I just gotta go in a dark corner somewhere.
Hey Rick, you want a bologna sandwich?
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta
trying to get inside.
I know, I'm like, I need to be miserable, guys. Stop talking. But so yeah, I mean, I wasn't very threatening in that particular film. I guess more just like stressed out to the point that I was cracking.
Right.
Like I've played a lot of diabolical characters, and that is almost harder. I want to say to shut it off. You start to get angry.
Right.
At people. You become that character for, especially when you're directing.
Some of the best actors have had to had therapy to come out of roles, you know.
I would believe it, yeah.
It's tough because it's not about being a method actor or anything like that, so much as it's about approaching the craft as a serious performer, and then the human psyche is a tricky thing. So you can go in with the best of intentions, I'm going to shut this on and off, but then it's really hard to do that. I've had some experience with this too, so I can relate to these situations with you.
You start to almost get sympathetic towards these characters when you say the dialogue in your head for months on end preparing, and then you do it. You start to say to yourself, "Hey, this character, you know, he makes sense. He's not such a bad guy. I mean, it's not his fault. He's a murderer,
right?
You know." It's like,
and that guy at the Quickie Mart just said something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his fault. You start to like rationalize with the character you're playing. It's like that's what gets scary. You know, it's almost like, why am I rooting for this guy just because I'm playing him now?
Right.
You know?
It's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Bad guy doesn't know he's bad.
Yeah.
A bad guy is.
They don't.
Right.
Yeah. Typically.
Interesting. So, and tell us about some of those other characters that you were just describing, those other two projects. The one with Wes Williams, for instance. Have you started shooting that, or is that?
Didn't do that one yet. That's
Okay.
actually a very small role, almost a cameo, where I play a racist bartender that's somehow connected to the main villain.
Yep.
And it's again, I often play the bad guy in just about everything. So, which is fine. You know, I gotta have my niche. And this one, I'm not as diabolical as I usually am. I'm just a straight up, you know, redneck.
Right.
So. Sorry, it's different. I don't think I've ever been a straight-up redneck, so.
I saw Guns N' Roses tribute band last week, so I know a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
So it sounds.
Well, you're also a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
so
right.
You've seen.
North Carolina, sure.
Yeah, you've seen plenty, I'm sure.
But it's just interesting to me that when you take on these characters, you really have to go to these different places. For instance, the redneck bartender, if you asked, he probably has some vulgar or offensive
It's vulgar,
lines.
yeah.
Yeah, and then if you go to the regular civilian on the street and say, hey, we want to throw you in the movie, here's the line, they're going to look at this script and, oh my goodness, I can't say that. And then for an actor, you have to put your face, your image, you have to possess what that redneck, so to speak, wants to say. So I commend you for that.
Well, I'm in kind of I almost consider it a luxury at this point, whereas I started off being, this was a challenge for like a couple of years, but I'm almost in a luxury at this point where like people expect me to be bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it's like, you know, I've played everything from a serial killer to a Nazi to a dictator to everything, you know, so I feel like I got this thing going where it's like people want to see it now.
Right.
You know, so it's almost like I can get away with a little bit more than the average person. I almost feel like they want to see it. They want me to explode.
Rick Chandler, here he comes.
Yeah, so it's like I can mouth off more now, and people think it's, you know, entertaining.
Nice. Speaking of entertaining, I want to hear about Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh, yes.
Gilgamesh. Tell me about it.
Gilgamesh is the big project that I directed and produced. I wrote it probably like 3 years ago. We were looking for a really big budget, and I did not get the really big budget, so I rewrote it. It's still a feature, but it's probably like an hour shorter, so it's like an hour and a half instead of, it was like this big epic. And it's a big epic sci-fi movie with some political overtones and some horror overtones.
Okay.
Would you like to hear about the plot at all?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, well, it's a little complicated, but essentially there's these entities, and they were created, so they're like older than the solar system, you know, they're created in the Big Bang or by God or whatever you want to believe in, and they end up on Earth, and one of them is Gilgamesh, and one of them is Inanna, and Gilgamesh keeps Inanna imprisoned in his remote cabin in Siberia, where no one, you know, is supposed to find her. But you know, the United States government is looking for her, and that's how the trouble starts, because they want to use her as a weapon, and they end up accidentally, one of the characters who's like our I guess our good guy, so to speak, or I don't really know if I want to call him a good guy, but he's played by Josh Davis, a local actor. He's an archaeologist, so he really doesn't know what he's doing. He's in over his head. And that's kind of his stick in the film. And he frees her, you know, and she's this dark god who uses deception. So she, you know, gets in his head and ends up summoning a meteor to destroy the planet, because she's kind of like a virus in a way, I guess.
Right.
That's kind of the way she's played off. And she just goes like planet to planet. And now this is her chance to destroy Earth. So meanwhile, the government still wants to use her as a weapon, so they start to target Gilgamesh, and they try and stop him because he's trying to kill her, and that's not what they want. Meanwhile, there's a communist takeover of the government. So this regime moves in that they really know what they want, and they want to use these characters as weapons to basically conquer the world. And so there's a lot of like communist stuff in the film. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the trailer. It was released late last week, but like a lot of it is like kind of flashbacks to, like, you know, the former Soviet Union, and like I play the dictator in it, and you know, I wear like the Russian hat from the Soviet Union, and he's actually he was a CIA agent who ends up getting psychologically scarred, I guess you could say, by Inanna, like much earlier in time, during the Vietnam War, actually.
Yeah. Sure.
And he loses his mind, and he ends up thinking he's this like Rasputin type character.
Okay.
And he's now aging slower, and like she like puts him in power. So it's kind of like I said, it's sci-fi. It's weird. The character's probably the creepiest character I've played. He's really out of his mind, like, you know, really out of his mind. Like
What I like about this is, you said, I mean, just hearing the story, it is an epic story with this specific character that you're playing, and the other characters. And what you said early was that you had written it, a 2.5-hour version, and then you kind of realized, man, this budget is more than I can afford right now, or more that's going to be garnered. So you did some tweaks to the script. I'm curious how you tweaked the script to kind of scale it back just a little bit, or a lot, to, you know?
It's actually a really good question. I have a Q&A after the premiere. I was hoping someone would ask that. So if you happen to go to the premiere, ask that again.
Okay.
It's there was a lot of things that changed, and I can't say everything because it would give away the plot, but everybody died in the long version because it went on forever. So like it got pretty intense. There was a little bit more betrayals. And in this, some of them had to be cut out because there was a lot of effects, special effects. Most of that was the main stuff that was cut out. There was also, I needed to rent a lot of military equipment.
Right.
And as it turned out, you know, I didn't rent as much stuff. There's still a lot of uniforms and guns and stuff in the film, but there's, you know, no tanks. And I mean, it originally was pretty intense. There was supposed to be like a giant cannon and all this stuff. And, you know, it was funny because at the time we came pretty close to making it happen too. It was like within the realm of possibility. It was like a money thing, but you know, still is my biggest budget to date, regardless of that.
Do you want to share that number, or is that off?
No, I'd rather probably. No,
I understand.
I'd say, but it's still the biggest. You know, I'm used to dealing with like $2,000 budgets, so it's still a bigger budget. We had Joe Scully from The Sopranos in it, who played Vito. So he's in there doing his thing. He's a corrupt senator.
Nice.
So he's there.
We've only got about a minute left. I want to ask you, what would you say? Because we always mention to our fans and our watchers, you know, if they want to make their own movie, then just start doing something, you know, and not be in their head, but like yourself, myself, go out there and do it. Do you have any words of wisdom or thoughts for the young people out there that might want to get involved in movies?
As a producer or just an actor, or what's the...
Well, just anyone that wants to get involved creatively in the local film scene. Do you have any suggestions or words of inspiration type of thing?
This might be cynical, but I'd say probably I would say to get involved with the right people. Yeah. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yes.
So I'd say probably like check IMDb and you know, see what people are actually up to. Okay. You know, instead of believing, you know, Facebook posts and hype and all that.
Right.
Actually see what people are doing and be like, hey, that's pretty artistic. I'm going to check that out versus, you know, hey, that person had a party or, you know.
They tweet well or something.
They tweet well and there's a promo poster every week, but it's like, well, where's the film?
Where's the heart and soul of this?
It hurts a lot of actors. I see a lot of talent quit over this. So, you know, I feel like people should research the director.
I think Rick, I like to call you Rick, Mr. Chandler, thank you very much. We'll have you on again. Great interview.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. This has been a great interview with Mr. Richard Chandler, also known as Rick Chandler, on the Short Film Showcase. And if you are out there wondering, how do I get involved in local filmmaking? How do I make a film, start acting, producing, directing? Remember, if you can dream it, shoot it. For Bryan Casey and BryanCaseyFilms.com, I'm Mike Messier for the Short Film Showcase. Thanks for watching.